I'll text you from my
Genocide is rather it's an overwhelming reality, because all the genocides that have been recorded in history, they happen in a context of a war, a civil war, or a war that comes from outside, and everything is just destroyed in the country. So it's an overwhelming reality. You just can't avoid it, and you live with it all the time. When you're on the street, a tree could remind you of something. The corner of a street could remind you of bodies you saw there. It could have been bodies of your friend. So any building, a building that was where your loved ones were slaughtered, everything reminds you of it. So I lived with it, and I probably still live with it for the rest of my life. So for our generation who lived through it, there's no way you could. Moving on is a word that people use, but it's impossible. How do you move on from a genocide? It's impossible. When I met my cinematographer for the first time in Berlin, we were doing a course there at the Berlin Talent Campus. It's 1 week of intensive networking and studying from the masters. And
so who did you study with?
When the first time I met my cinematographer, she's from Australia, I tried to sell her a film idea, but it wasn't this one.
Okay.
And so that this is not what I had planned on doing by that time. And that was February 2009. And I shot this film in October 2009. But each time felt like I want to do any creative work, I'd go back to this story. I'd go back to this story that I had written. Two siblings losing their parents, and the story of a militia man who was involved in the massacre of those parents. So I kept going back to this story all the time. And at some point in April 2009, I was stuck in a hotel in Mexico because of the swine flu. And I kept trying to work on other things, to write other things, but I'll go back to that story. And I felt I had to do it. I felt that it was it was something that I'd been avoiding to consider, but I had to make that film, and I had to show in there my experiences now of a young filmmaker who's trying to do something that's dear to his heart, but not being understood. So that's when I wrote very quickly, in very few days, I wrote the story about the filmmaker, the young filmmaker, and paired it to the other story, and then it made perfect sense to me. I was like, this is what I really wanted to do. Yeah, so, and I managed to convince the cinematographer to stick to me and work on this film.
I think it's pretty obvious, but what the metaphor of the cockroach is language that was really used by the Tutsis, right?
By the Hutu extremists, not the Hutu in general, because not all the Hutus were extremists. Yeah. So the film is heavily metaphorical, and it's not everyone who can understand. You need some basic information about the genocide in Rwanda to understand what the film is about. So so I used. I didn't want to make a film about the genocide, that expressing the genocide, showing the action and the bullets and the guns and the combat and the massacres. I wanted it to be subtle, subtle for the filmmaker in the film, Balthazar, because he's like me. I don't like violence, plain violence being thrown in my face. So that's why I decided to actually do it just the way they say it. They say cockroach, and then I show a cockroach, and they talk about cockroaches meaning all the Tutsis, and then I wanted to show those cockroaches like that, just like animals, and because they're dehumanized, and so that's how I wanted to show them. So.